I had to talk to myself a lot and say, no, you can do this. You have the skills. You just have to figure out what it is you need to give yourself in order to allow yourself to shine and to show what you can bring to the table.
Have you ever felt like a dream of yours is so big and would require so many connections or opportunities that you just feel like you don't have access to? Have you ever worked towards something and just faced disappointment and struggled to persevere? I think we've all been there. If we have a big enough vision, we start out thinking something's going to happen just like that. And before we know it, we are so deep and it's taking so much longer than what we expect. But if we can just persevere, what we typically find is that it was worth it. Coming up next on the Successful Women Think Differently podcast, I am talking to Emmy-nominated screenwriter Kristin Tucker about the power of having a singular focus and how to stay the course when your dream feels like it's been denied. Kristin, I am so excited to have you now. I want to give everybody just a little of your background, and I'm terribly proud, but Kristin is an Emmy-nominated screenwriter for the HBO show. Well, you got your Emmy nomination for the HBO show, A Black Lady sketch show. Is it just 1 year ago that you got your first Emmy nomination?
Yes. Maybe two. I mean, time, I don't know what time means these days, but somewhere between one and...
You don't know what time means. Okay. So she is currently co-producer on Amazon's upcoming series All Stars, starring Reese Witherspoon and created by Aline Brosh McKenna. She previously worked on as executive story editor on the upcoming Netflix series Dead Boy Detectives. I really love the whole premise behind that one. She's story editor on season 2 of Max's The Flight Attendant. Have you seen that? My husband is like hooked on it now. And staff writer on season 2, as I mentioned, of the groundbreaking comedy A Black Lady sketch show. That's where she got her Emmy nomination. And she's currently developing a TV series based on an original idea with Robin Thede for Better or Words Productions and WBTV for BET Plus. And in the feature world is writing a Netflix original film to star Jada Pinkett Smith and to be directed by Oscar winner Matthew Cherry. Kristin, that's quite a resume. And that's just the stuff from the last 2 years.
I mean, when you read it out loud, it sounds great.
Well, how else would it sound? I mean, I'm so excited. So the other piece I didn't read from Kristin's bio, besides the fact that she's from Dallas, which is where we originally met when she was still just a teenager and I was not quite a teenager, is that Kristin is my god sister. And we are so very close. But I have watched this journey, Kristin, from you writing. I mean, at 14, your writing talent was so evident. And then going off to college to write, to really pursue this vision, going to grad school, getting into the NBC Writers Program, which, if I recall, and as your big sister, I can say all the details. I think there were like 6,000 people that applied and they chose like 15. Is that about right?
There were 8 of us.
There were 8. It wasn't even 15. 8 of you. And all those points along the way where you were getting opportunities, but they weren't the big, oh, I've got this job now. It was, oh, I'm writing an episode of a show on the Disney Channel, or I'm a part of this, but it's enough to tell me I'm on the right path, but not enough that this is the only thing that I'm doing. And so for so many, as obviously the podcast is Successful Women Think Differently. When we have a vision of what we want, it can be hard to stay the course. But when you're getting the confirmation along the way, when you get your manager, it's a really big deal. When you land an agent, it's a really big deal. When Disney Channel asks you to write an episode, it's obvious that the talent is there. But when you're still needing to do all the other things that pay the bills, I think for any of us, whether we're trying to start a business or become an author, I had those moments myself, or there's any other dream where we've got to stick with it. It can be hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to ask you how you feel right now, and then I want you to tell me about this whole journey along the way. How does it feel now? I mean, after you had a few of the big agencies like fighting over who's going to get to represent you, and now you're writing for all of these major networks. How does it feel now?
It feels, I think because I've been on the other side, I know how fleeting it can be and how hard it was to get to this point. So I certainly do not take it for granted. Every day I'm grateful for where I am and for what I have, and for good days, bad days, whatever it is. I'm like, yes, but you could be doing that thing that you didn't like doing. Remember that? So I always stay grounded in that, but I don't, like I said, when I heard you saying all those things, I was like, wow, that sounds like a great gal. I'd love to get to know her. But I don't ever sit in those moments of really appreciating and patting myself on the back, because it's hard for me to do that in general, but also because I know there's just so much more that I feel like I haven't even cracked the surface of what I want to do. So I'm kind of in this in-between space of gratitude, but also like, let's keep this train going. I got places to go and things to do.
Yeah. So when you say like there's so much more you want to do, what is the vision?
I want to achieve the highest levels of success in this profession, which is Emmys and Oscars and the whole thing. I want to have movies and TV shows that are really well respected and highly regarded, and ones that people can watch over and over again and always sort of go back to and appreciate, because I have those, and I would love for something that I create to have that lasting legacy. And I would love to be able to help other young women, other young Black women, to sort of get up in the ranks and have more of us in this space. Because while we've certainly made strides, there's a lot more opportunity for us to tell our stories and to be in the rooms and to have our voices heard. So it would be great to be in sort of a producing position one day to give more opportunities to people that have been more marginalized. So that's also what success looks like for me.
Wow. It reminds me that our vision is multifaceted, right? Like the first part of it can be just landing the big gig that opens the doors, but that's not the end of the vision. Mm-hmm. At the same time, like you said, you're listening, you're going, oh, that sounds like a great girl. It can be easy to almost not notice when we get to our vision too. We're so hard working towards what that next thing is. But if we go back, when did you first know that you wanted to be a screenwriter?
Junior year of college, I took a screenwriting class. As you mentioned, I'd always liked writing ever since I was in elementary school. Loved reading, loved just words in general. But growing up in Dallas, screenwriting was not a thing that anyone talked about, that I was ever exposed to. So I was thinking journalism or something like that. And it wasn't until I happened to take this screenwriting class in college, just on a whim, and I thought, oh, this is amazing. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to pursue. This is it. And that's what compelled me to apply to grad school for my master's in screenwriting. And it was,
I didn't even realize that. I thought you had screenwriting in your head way back, like in high school.
No,
it was just the writing in general. And you've always been such a creative writer. In fact, if you listen to the second episode when I was talking about procrastination and my my crazy plane ride to LA where I wrote 6
Yes.
That was for Kristin's birthday.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Which it's always amazed me because you write, it feels like you write effortlessly. I mean, I'm a writer too, right? But my grad school was journalism, not screenwriting. And I like overthink it. I have to always overcome my perfectionism of myself permission to write badly. But I've always watched you, and you've even helped me sometimes with my own writing. And you just write like it's nothing.
I am glad the illusion is working.
I was going to ask you what the secret is to that.
Once I get in the zone, which it can take me a minute to get there, but once I'm in there, if I can tune everything out, then I can allow the things to flow out that are there. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that that's secret necessarily, but just tapping into what's waiting for me is what I feel like.
I think that's a big part of it. When you say what's waiting, you know that there is something there that you're meant to bring to life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And tap into that always, for me, even reminds me of my purpose. Like when I'm thinking about everybody else and how they're going to experience my writing, I get stuck.
Right.
But I think when I think about how I'm going to serve through my writing or how someone's going to be helped through it, it's just not, it just shifts my mindset, shifts how I think about it. Mm-hmm. So you're a junior in college and you're like, yeah, I think I want to do this screenwriting thing. What gave you the audacity to have that big dream? Because we know it's entertainment, it's Hollywood. It's not like, oh, I want to go into marketing or accounting where there are tons of companies that need those services.
Right. Yes.
Limited, number of opportunities. What gave you the audacity to say, no, this is what I want and I'm going to go after it?
Well, if you remember, I started out in that marketing, accounting, international business realm freshman year at Georgetown. That was my major. Don't give me that look. You're looking at me like I'm foreign. Yes. I was in international
accounting.
Well, I had to take accounting classes in the business school. Yes.
Okay.
So I was on the whole business track freshman year. And then I was like, oh, no. This is not. We need to get off this train and do something else. So that's when I transferred to USC. I went into entertainment communication. So I still didn't know what exactly I was doing, but I knew, okay, I'm good with communication. I'm good with speaking, writing. So there's got to be something there. And then found the screenwriting class. And I think it was a combination of having gone to this all-girls school for 8 years and being told, you can do anything. Whatever you put your mind to, you can succeed at it. The world is your oyster. And having had that foundation of, oh, I can do whatever I put my mind to, there was never really a doubt at that point for me as to whether or not this could actually become a reality, because I'd always been groomed to think that I could do whatever it was I put my mind to. And that's what I put my mind to.
There's so much in that. Yeah, there's so much in that as a parent, right? To what our kids are exposed to and what they grow up in, believing about themselves. Mm-hmm. I love that. And I know your mom was so intentional about putting you in environments. I know she believed it anyway.
Yes, that for sure. Even the school before St. Philip's, I mean, we would go into chapel every morning and say, if it is to be, it's up to me. And, all these mantras of like, this, I can do this. I just got to believe. And so I had that mentality going in.
Oh, I love that. So you went to St. Philip's, you went to the Hockaday School, which is pretty awesome. Girls' school. I remember you giving the commencement address and being so proud and picturing that you were going to set out and do exactly what you wanted to do, whatever that was. But, in Successful Women Think Differently, I talk about this habit. The very first habit I talk about in the book, Successful Women Think Differently, is simply believe you can do it. And it sounds so simple, but this whole idea that for many women, we struggle with imposter syndrome, like not always feeling like um, we belong in the room, even though we do.
Mhm.
That particularly plagues women of color. Did you have any doubts over the years as you were moving in this direction, but you weren't always seeing the the results that you were wanting? And if so, what were those doubts?
Um, yeah, I had imposter syndrome last month. I mean, that has never gone away. I feel like it's always a constant struggle.
Okay, can you tell me about this imposter syndrome last month?
So the show that I was just working on, the Reese Witherspoon show for Amazon Prime, it was my first time in a traditional half-hour comedy room. So I'd done sketch comedy, I'd done more of the dramedy, but this is my first time in a comedy room, half hour, and it was just a different energy, a different vibe. And so I'm learning that even though I've done this before, I've never done it like this. And so I'm learning new things and stretching new muscles. And I'm like, oh no, I don't have this. What am I doing? I'm awful. I'm in my own head. Like I felt like I couldn't get out of my own way. And I had to talk to myself a lot and say, no, you can do this. You have the skills. You just have to figure out what it is you need to give yourself in order to allow yourself to shine and to show what you can bring to the table. So if that means taking extra time before work or after work or whatever to read through things and sit with them so that you have your thoughts already together and prepared, or if that means, jotting down extra notes or whatever it takes for me to feel more prepared and secure so that I can bring out what I know is there, but that I was struggling to access. That's what I had to do. And, it was that. And I was saying prayers and just asking for the strength to bring what I knew I could and to show my value and my worth. And I felt like I got there. But that the imposter syndrome has not gone away, even with several opportunities on different projects.
Wow. I love your process though, because that's it. We can't control the thoughts that show up, but we can be aware of them and then counteract them. like you said, reminding yourself of why you're in the room in the first place, that you have the skills. I think a lot of times if we're not careful, we can have these thoughts come. And if we don't have that level of awareness, it can paralyze us.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you first realize, well, first of all, how long did you think it would take you?
I mean, let me just say,
okay. I
was not born with patience. So that was never a part of this game plan. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do college and then I'll do grad school and then I'll give myself like 6 months, year max. I'm sure I'll be well on my way. Like I have my list of goals of like by 30, I'm going to have won this award and that one, and I'll probably be a millionaire. Yeah, 30, that's a long time. Fine. So I had all these things planned out, and that was not the plan. That was not in the cards at all. And it was sort of like, wait, what does this mean? What's happening here? I didn't understand why, because it had always been the case that whatever I put out, my level of effort will be reflected in what I achieve. And I was giving the effort and I was doing the work and I knew I had the talent, but I was not seeing the results manifest in the physical world. And I did not understand that disconnect because, again, going back to what I was taught, it was like, you can do anything, you just put the work forth and it will produce. And it wasn't adding up. And that was a real struggle for me because no one had ever really told me that part.
Wow. I think a lot of us are told, we all know the whole, if you put your mind to it, you can do anything. And then the reality of having a big dream and then it taking longer than you thought. What did you then decide to do when you had the realization clearly this isn't going to take 6 months, a year, it's not even going to be 6 years.
You're right.
What then when the reality finally hit?
It was hard. I did not deal with it well. It was hard emotionally. I would say I struggled a lot. There was a lot of fears, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of questioning, myself, my value, my direction. I think there were times that I was for sure in a depressed state because I knew what I was capable of, and I didn't understand why I wasn't in a position to show the world what I was capable of. That just didn't make sense to me. And so I had to take on these jobs that I didn't really want to do, but I have to do something. And so I'm sort of just in a numb place and sort of robotic, doing what I have to do just to get by, just to make money, and not really caring. So I have to tune out emotionally and mentally just to sort of function. And so it didn't feel good. I didn't feel good. It was a really hard time, and I wasn't sure what it meant. I didn't know what I was being told. Am I being told this is not what I'm supposed to be doing? Because as you said, I had little successes, but they were so spread out. There was a lot of time in between those things. So I had a lot of time to think and analyze and overthink. And am I supposed to be doing something else? Should I give this up? And there were times when I was like, okay, I'll do this copywriting job. I'll try this and just maybe see if this is where I'm supposed to be. And the other thing was just a dream, or maybe my writing is supposed to manifest in another way. That's what my brain said. The brain that has to rationalize and get through the day.
Yeah.
But my soul always knew something else.
Mm.
And it was easy sometimes to silence that or to ignore it, because like you don't know what you're talking about, because if that was true, then everything would be different. Yeah. But I remember distinctly at some point when I'd come back, I'd been in LA, I came back to Texas. I was in a relationship that was ending. I was very emotionally devastated. And in that moment of like being completely broken, my soul said, and now you can go back to California. And it was like, so it was a voice that was mine, but not mine. And it was so clear to me in that moment that she was saying, I know this hurts, but I know where you're supposed to be. And I've always known where you're supposed to be. So you have to go do this because this is for you. And I promise it'll be there. And I went back, and then things began to happen a lot more quickly than before. But
wow,
it was a journey emotionally, for sure.
It's an emotional journey, but it was also spiritual, because you knew deep down you're not supposed to give up.
Mm-hmm.
I know we had a lot of conversations over the years when you were feeling discouraged. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I think, because I've been there when I feel discouraged, and you've got the people who love you, like, it's going to just keep going. It's going to work. There were times that I was like, you're so talented, because you are. Like, I just couldn't imagine that it wouldn't work out. All I have to do is look at TV shows and movies, and I'm like, Kristin can write. And I would say that to you, and you'd be like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's how I felt. Like, please stop talking.
But I think it's encouraging, because we all need to know that we're not alone when we have a vision, and we just know, like, it's something that won't let us go, that we need to keep going, but we don't control the timeline. And I think that's the hard thing. Has this taught you anything about patience, since you said that wasn't your top strength?
I mean, we're amicable. Like, I don't know that we're besties or anything yet, but you know, I can chill with her now. It's fine. I realize that there's that idea of like, what's meant for you is meant for you, and adult patience a lot of times comes along with that, and it doesn't feel good. She never said it, I feel good, but it's like, I am placing you where you're supposed to be and who you're supposed to be with and when you're supposed to be there. And I consciously work to trust that. And it's evolving too. I'm not saying I'm fully immersed in that trust, but I understand it now that I have witnessed it firsthand.
So if there was anything you could do over, something that could have made the journey shorter or easier, what would it be?
I've thought about this. You remember when I was working at William Morris as an assistant?
Yes, I do.
And, as you may have seen in movies and whatever else, the horror stories of being an assistant are true. It's a hard, thankless job. And it certainly was for me. It was the one job I had where I would cry every Sunday thinking that I had to go back the next day. And if you remember, I left that job because of those reasons. And I left they want you to give a full year, and then the idea is that your boss will help you get to the next place. We'll give you a job or get you a job as an assistant on a show or whatever it may be. And I left a little short of that. And so I did not get that leg up from my boss into the next thing. And I've thought, maybe if I just stayed and stuck it out, then I could have gotten to a show earlier as a showrunner's assistant or a writer's assistant or whatever, and my journey could have been shorter than it was. But then I think, well, now I'm saying that my success was dependent on someone who didn't treat me well. And I don't want to believe that. And maybe I had to go the long route, but at least I went the route that felt good to me as a person and where I felt treated as I should have been treated. And if that's the trade-off, then that's okay. So I don't think there's anything else, though.
Wow. Kristin, you have a lot of conviction, and you know what you want or don't want. I remember that very well because I was like, just stay. It's just and
yes, you like, and my mother.
Please get her to stay. And it's like, I have done my best. And she said, no, she cannot take this anymore. But it's interesting because even in looking back, there's maybe some door would have opened a lot sooner. But I'm also loving that you also resolved that I did this for me, that I have boundaries around what I'm willing to do and how I'm willing to be treated in order to get to my vision. I think that you have to know what your limits are and what your boundaries are. Yeah. And a lot of people don't. That says a lot about you.
Thank you. And it's true. I asked myself, yes, you want the dream badly enough, but you don't have to. If you wouldn't put up with this in your personal life, why would you do it for your career? It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. You can't approach this from a position of fear or shortage or something like that. Like, if I don't subject myself to this, then I won't have any opportunity, because that's not how that's not how this works. There is an abundance, and maybe your access to the abundance is a different way. So yeah, I don't really have any regret about that.
Oh, that is so good. Because when we don't have regrets, we can have peace about where we are. We don't have to second guess. So there's a strike right now. The reason you have time to sit with me on a podcast, right?
Listen, we can do this every day this week if you want.
So there's the writer's strike. Where are things now? What are you hoping for with this situation?
I think what writers are asking for is fair, which boils down to money, of course, but also not being eliminated. Writers' rooms have gotten significantly smaller over the years, so there's fewer opportunities. With the emergence of AI, now there's the possibility of not needing writers at all.
Oh my gosh.
Things have changed so much with shorter writers' rooms that people aren't really able to support themselves. It used to be you could get a job on a show as a writer, and even though you're not working the full year, you have enough saved to survive during the off times. And with your residuals and all that, you could live. That's not the case anymore. So people are struggling to make ends meet. They don't have enough money. They're having trouble even getting jobs on shows because of the shorter staffs. It's just taken a turn that is harmful to the industry as a whole. And if we don't do something to sort of nip this in the bud right now, then it will probably just get worse. So I am hoping for more opportunities, more staff positions so that more people are employed, a greater cut of the pie. I mean, these companies are making a lot of money. And writers' salaries have gone the opposite way of where they should be. And I think that the pandemic showed us how much we rely on entertainment and stories. And as a writer, these things are hard. It's hard to sit in front of a computer or a piece of paper and be vulnerable and take someone's notes and fix it and make it better and do all the things. So it's worth what we're asking for. So I'm hoping that these companies will acknowledge our value and our worth. And
I'm hoping that too. Yeah, I'm hoping that for you too, because I mean, the well-written shows are things we go back to again and again. The stories that are told and being told by a diverse group of people. I mean, it means something to see yourself reflected in the entertainment that you enjoy. And that's one of the things I'm so proud of about where you are now and where you're going and the doors that have opened up. I know there's so many that have come before you, but there's more coming after you. So one more question. I'm just thinking about the woman or the guys. I know the guys listen to. Sometimes they ask me, what about successful men? They got to think differently too, okay? But if there's one thought shift that a woman should make to stay the course when it's feeling hard, like maybe it's the business that they're wanting to really get going or the career change they want to make, or it doesn't even have to be career. I mean, sometimes it's the relationship that you want, or, you know, the way that you want to be more fit and healthy, and it's hard and you don't see the result that you're looking for. What is the most important shift in thinking that you think you need in order to stay the course when you feel like giving up?
Yeah, that's a great question. And my gut reaction is to say that, you know, whatever anyone's sort of obstacle is different and unique to them. But I think sort of understanding whether the message you're receiving, be it from the world, be it from people around you, is that true to you, and is it beneficial to your goal and what you ultimately want to achieve? Or is it something that you say, thank you and move along? I think there's sort of a fine line between that. And I say that because obviously I got a lot of advice and a lot of input from a lot of people along the way. And a lot of it was well-meaning, but didn't necessarily speak to who I am and how I want to operate in the world. So I'm not an extrovert, but if someone who is an extrovert is telling me you should do X, Y, and Z, that doesn't necessarily work for me because that's not aligning with who I am as a person. So now I'm just forcing myself to do things that I'm uncomfortable with and am not good at necessarily. Now, there could be a grain of something that's in that person's advice that you can take away, but I don't feel like you need to become someone else in order to get to where you want to be. You have to stay true and aligned to who you are and take what's valuable and leave the rest behind and be okay with that. And don't think if you don't do what this person says, then you're not going to make it, because everyone's path is different. And there are a million ways. So that would be my advice.
Oh, I love that. Stay true to who you are. And you're right. There's so many voices telling us how we should do whatever it is they're wanting to do. And so remembering that's profound. It's simple, but it's profound. Kristin, thank you so much for the chance to chat with you like this and share your story, because I think it's so inspiring. I think we often set the vision, and I did the same thing. I when I got out of PR, I said in about 6 months, my calendar is going to be booked with speaking engagements. I'll have, I had gotten a book deal, but I had this idea that I thought would happen so fast. And typically what happens is we step out of faith and we get far enough out that we can't very easily go back in the other direction. And then we realize, oh, this is going to be a longer journey than I thought. And I just wanted to have this conversation because that's normal. And we can feel like when we're in it, that we're the only ones, or maybe we're silly to dream what we're dreaming, or, maybe it's too big of a dream. And when you really get to where you're wanting to go, you realize, no, it was my dream. It was my vision. And we live one time, and it's worth it to persevere until you get there. So I'm excited about where you are, but I'm also excited about where you are going and seeing all of that unfold. So thank you. And thank you for joining us for this episode of the Successful Women Think Differently podcast. We will have some really great show notes with a few coaching questions out of this particular episode. I really love what you just said, Kristin, about, is that true for me? That's a question I always love asking, because sometimes we don't ask that question. So check out the show notes, and I will talk to you in the next episode.